It needs to be acknowledged. On February 12th of 2018, there was a major benchmark on a military standards manual concerning night vision goggles. This military standards manual came out around the time that there was an optics conference in Florida. I believe it was in Orlando, Florida. And there were several presentations of innovative technology from Japan and from Japanese companies. These two things happened concurrently. I did not find this military standards manual specifically until later. But on February 12th, 2018, by February 12th of 2018, the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. was set to reserve via U.S. postal mail a package that was more than 300 pages that I had compiled regarding my investigation and my request for assistance from a specific unit of the Department of Justice. Now, I understand it was received by the time I had paid for it to be received and had been guaranteed it would be received via the USPS. But I did not get notice of the electronic confirmation of its receipt in Washington, D.C. until 5:04 a.m. on February 15th of 2018. This was after there was a school shooting in Florida on February 14th of 2018. That week, there were several things that occurred. Two major areas of occurrence were that there was proceedings concerning AMBAC, which is a company that, among other things, provides insurance on municipal bonds, and that is a subsidiary of Citigroup that had proceedings regarding bankruptcy that week concerning a project connected to military housing, as well as a project or was bonds connected to Puerto Rico. Those events occurred on February 13th and I believe February 14th. Had my package been received on February 12th and acknowledged on February 12th, I believe there actually would have been a major benchmark that would have been met, that would have been able to impact or recalibrate other factors considerating in consideration of a concept of default connected to both that military housing project as well as the bankruptcy proceedings concerning the issues with Puerto Rico. But it would also have met a benchmark concerning military standards relating to optics associated with a concurrent commitment to the nation of Japan, which would have been equivalent to meeting benchmarks necessary to provide for security of, among other things, nuclear facilities. And that would have, I believe, exposed the fact that the incident at Fukushima was actually a nuclear terrorist attack. That it was a terrorist attack that was engaged for specific reasons that had to do with a larger paradigm. Does that sound ridiculous? Well, everything after pursuit and attempting to reconcile and correct for the previous mischaracterizations continues to accrue as confirmation. Today, there is apparently a conference in Kyoto, Japan, regarding oncology. And my understanding is that when I was studying non destructive testing, my visual testing level 2 certification was intentionally depreciated. And rather than me being able to be ascribed or characterized for one purpose, having to do with the use of visual testing technology for other sectors, including ones I was in the situation of actually addressing, it was decided to allow for it to be diverted, or rather to be recharacterized specifically for a particular kind of medical technology, somehow related to what was capable of being done with things like what my visual testing examination was about. Now, I did not approve. I did not approve, and because I did not approve, I was punished. This happened before February of 2018. This continues to accrue and it continues to accumulate. And the culprits and the people who willfully and intentionally obstructed confirmation of receipt of my package to the Department of Justice have yet to be identified and held accountable. There was no justification except for an understanding that there had been a long term, premeditated plan to accrue strategic defaults for leveraging for projects up to including forced medication of people, including people alleged to have experienced trauma because they had to be witness to an act of violence in an area where they were otherwise considered to be under safety or sanctuary, like a school or a religious shrine. That's just part of what's going on. Now, here's the thing. I believe there are other people that have had concurrences like this happen in their lives. And you're supposed to believe these coincidences, they don't really mean anything. Unless you, even if you have a particular spiritual systematology that believes in things like the law of attraction, maybe you believe in some sort of prophecy. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to actually acknowledging and establishing accountability for refusal to address the material factors and to hold people accountable for criminal activity, especially when they are in positions of power and the abuse of their power allows for these kinds of perils and dangers to other people, I believe there are other people like that out there. And this is not about mental illness. This is not about delusion. This is not about hallucination. The truth of the matter is, the calibration of the metrics to meet up in this way, to me, are absolutely 100% evidentiary of the fact that there was an intentional obstruction of delivery and acknowledgement of receipt of my package to the Department of Justice, which would have made the benchmark connected to the maturity on a security associated with that military standards manual, because they had every intention of accruing defaults. And this has also been demonstrated by the way in which alleged changes to various standard bodies have also been allowed to accrue in ways that create even greater risk and peril associated with people or entities that might try to engage or use those standards or those standards bodies in their projects. Today, one of the things that's in the Federal Register as a consideration of change regarding the National Institutes for Standards Testing. One of the problems with the NIST right now is that there's a significant conflict between what is allowed to be characterized as acceptable under the National Institute of Standards Testing versus what is going on with ASNT, the American Standards Non-Destructive Testing. Because I have certifications that qualify under both, but I am not supposed to know about my role in the CVE certifications. I'm supposed to believe it was a medical problem. And because it was a medical problem, that my concern is going to my appointments, taking my medication, making sure doctors are able to get credit for the services they provide, and that whoever the insurance is gets the billing records and the payments. Nobody wants to acknowledge what relationship the mischaracterization and misrepresentation of me as having a mental illness, when what was happening is somebody was attempting to reprogram previously programmed cyber subroutines that were going on in connection with enhancements to my biophysiology, as well as other accounts to which my identity and my life had been used, were intentionally sabotaged. And how my later attempt to acquire certifications in non-destructive testing without accounting for that, as well as being misrepresented through another mental health diagnosis immediately before my schooling when I was trying to report fraud, has embedded and encoded the certifications process, which also means the technologies that are based upon and coordinated and correlated with these certifications, with inherent moments of potential exploitation. And that's what's going on. And they know this. There's no way. I've read through enough of what's publicly accessible. They already know. So why would they select specific people or groups of people with these capabilities and intentionally code our lives with sabotage. And other people whose job and responsibility it is to provide protection against this and want to claim that the country should be obligated to billions of dollars and numerous years, including decades worth of capital outlays in order to keep this from happening or deal with the implications. Why are they allowed to be represented as if they have some legitimacy? This probably speaks to why it is they're trying to hustle us right now with this proxy voting scheme, and they're talking about mail-in votes. Interference involving the United States Postal Service has in effect demonstrated that people use mail service delivery as a way to try to program specific benchmarks in people's lives for other people to leverage. And they're trying to compel people's cooperation with this. It seems simple on one hand, but there's a reason why mail fraud is considered a predicate crime to a RICO conspiracy. It's very significant on many levels. Talking about electronic mail is one thing. Talking about actual post mail is something else as well. I did not agree to allow for my expertise and for whatever else was going on in my life to be sabotaged so that somebody could use me as a human test subject for medical experimentation. I also did not agree that it was acceptable to say that the legacy or inheritance I have from the fact that my mother was tortured for 25 years as a human test subject for medical experimentation is that I was supposed to be in that lineage, that I was allowed to be used as a guinea pig because you got away with using my mother. This is not about some sort of traditional modality around which to try to justify covert operations. This is a threat that you have put on the people of this country and the rest of the world, and you need to be held accountable for it.